So I'm so excited to bring this show to you guys. I had the pleasure of speaking with the very talented actor and voice actor extraordinaire, the Chuck Huber. I mean, I'm so excited about this. He hails from Chi-Town, but he resides here in Texas. And if you're into anime at all, then I know that you know his voice and I know that you've heard of his name. So anyway, he's been casted in 273 movies. He is also a producer, a director, a writer, and a teacher amongst many other professionals. He's received 3 nominations and taken home 4 Behind the Voice Actors Awards spanning his career, if my numbers are right. And he's probably absolutely the most famous for voicing various beloved characters on Dragon Ball, as well as Kurogiri on My Hero Academia and Laplace from the time I was reincarnated as a slime. I've been out of my mind excited about this interview, and so I hope that you enjoy it. Hey, this is Audra Carroll with Coming in Hot, and I wanted to share with you guys that we recently got in the numbers for the show. And because of all of your support, you guys pushed us up to be among one of the top shows on astronetradio.com. And we are coming for #1, baby. So we need you to keep tuning in every Sunday night on Facebook for the live shows and the interactive watch parties, and astronetradio.com for sure. Don't forget to like and follow the show and myself on Facebook and Instagram. You can catch us on YouTube and at astronetradio.com and on most of your podcast platforms. And make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Oh yeah, you can also, tweet me at the Audra Carroll. So anyway, I hope you continue to enjoy all of the new episodes that we've got coming up here. See you later. Oh, there we go. Oh, perfect.
Look at that.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm like nervous, excited.
Nervous-sided? It's good to be nervous-sided. It's amazing.
That's what I'm learning. That's what I'm embrace it.
That's right. If you don't, that's one of the things we talk about in my classes all the time is like, as performers or interviewers or whatever it is we do, even ordering Starbucks at the Starbucks in a long line, like you feel the nervous energy as you get to the front of the line. You can feel your adrenaline. And as soon as you learn to tap into that and be okay with it, that's when you start to be able to handle performance really well.
Oh, that's exciting. Like that's all the stuff that gets my juices flowing. I love this stuff. I mean, I'm like,
I do too.
I mean, this is this type of rhetoric and talk about energy and the power of the mind and things like that is brand new for me. Like complete 180
Oh, cool.
person I used to be. Oh, yes.
Cool. Yeah. No, you explore to the level that your map is opened. And as your map opens further and further, just like in a video game, you're like, oh, look, there's all these different levels and different adventures I can go on. And until you know that, until you know there are other places to go, you're just blind to it. You just don't know they exist.
Yeah, that is so true. And there's so many people walking around blind right now that just, they feel
yeah.
so lost and feel so hopeless and have no clue that it's all within them.
That's it. That's it.
I don't know why is that so hard to believe, because we don't always believe that.
Well, I think we as children, we are in a permanent theta brainwave state up until about the age of 8 or 9. And so we get a lot of programming at that time. We get programming from media. We get programming mostly from our family. And most of what we believe happened to us before we had a choice in the matter. So your job and we talk about this in class all the time, your job is to integrate the stories of your life in a way that gives you a perspective that you enjoy, that gives you, I always tell people, it's like if you had the choice to make your view out your window anything you wanted it to be, what would you look at? And the same is true for your perspective on life. If you wanted to look at your life in terms of you being a hero, doing hard work, helping people when you can, what's the view you want to see of life? Do you want to see the view of you're oppressed and you have no control? Or do you want to see the view of like, I'm struggling day by day, one step after the other. I am going in the right direction. I'm valued. I'm affirmed. I affirm myself first before affirming anybody else, because my affirmation means nothing to you if I can't tell you from the deepest core of myself that I'm good with me. If I'm just lying to you, if I'm giving you false compliments, if I'm saying things that are, you know, in your soul, that was great, good job, when you sucked, then I'm sending the implicit message that I don't believe you can handle the criticism, which sends the message that I think you're terrible. As opposed to being like, that was not your best work. I think you can do better. Like, oh, that makes me feel good. That makes me feel strong. That makes me feel like I have control and I can change my perspective, which is the truth.
Absolutely. That's good talk right there. It's so true.
It is.
I mean, it's so true. And like you said, until like you said, it's just until people, their mind has to be open enough for it, but also the behaviors, finding the right pattern of behaviors to put behind that.
That's one of the things we approach in class too. It's a technique I call subroutining. We subroutine our lives. So you have patterns in your life. This comes about from the idea that we are perfect algorithmic creatures. We are brilliant computers. We are computers that work constantly in ways that we can't get computers to work. If I were to take this ball and I were to throw it up and grab it while talking, and then, tratar hablando en español cuando, like I can do all that while doing an interview, and you can't teach a robot to do that. So the conclusion is that we're incredible computers and our lives are algorithmically perfect. So all you have to do is search, what are my routines? And then you start to add subroutines to them that drive you in the direction that you want to go. Every time I this, I will that. Every time I want to X, I will precede it by Y. So that if I have perfect patterns in my life and I want to change the way my life goes, I just add different patterns to the ones that are already existing. And the thing we say is the primary concern with any subroutine you add to your life is to make it so simple that it's unskippable. So that if you want to write the great American novel, but you just spend all your time playing video games, then you add a subroutine where you're going to work on your novel the tiniest little bit every time before you open up Hulu or Netflix or Xbox or PlayStation, whatever it is you're really good at already. You just add a little tiny. I have a student who said, and this is pretty typical, she said, I'm going to write 2 pages before I play my video games. And I was like, no. Write 2 sentences. Maybe start with just 2 words. Just commit to writing 2 words every time you start to play a video game or every time you open Netflix. And once you get that habit solidified, once you guard the time where the habit can grow, then it grows, because it's just like plants. Plants put down deep roots before you ever see anything above the surface. And we spend so much time trying to show people the surface that there's no roots and they fail. But when you guard things with simplicity and make them so easy you can't skip them, they grow without question much stronger.
Now, I have a specific question about that then. Do you find, because this is what I seem to find in watching just patterns of behavior in people, is that people, because we are our own worst critics, we seem to not give ourselves enough patience. You know, like you said, we always want to run all the way to the end of the finish line. You know, the first analogy I think of, you brought up writing, but I think about exercise.
Sure.
How many people start an exercise routine, and because they go all the way in the beginning instead of allowing themselves to build up, muscle memory and things like that, then they give up, and then they think they're failures. I noticed that a lot of people just will not give themselves enough patience to learn something.
That's entirely true. The subroutine actually started with exercise. I have a friend who's a film producer, And he's very athletic and does lots of push-ups, and we're pretty competitive. That's the positive side of good camaraderie, is that we push each other to be excellent. And he pushes me to be excellent, but I was never much of a push-ups guy. And then I said, well, I'm just going to do 8 push-ups every time I want a cup of coffee. And I have about 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day. And I love coffee. I'm a perfect algorithmic creature when it comes to drinking my coffee. Nothing can stop me from having coffee. Since I'm not going to forget it. But if I make the commitment to do 50 push-ups before a cup of coffee, that's not going to work. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to skip it. But 8 was so simple, I couldn't say no. And after about a month of doing 8 push-ups per cup of coffee, I realized that I'd put in like almost 1,000 push-ups in that month. Mm-hmm. And I tried to think of when's the last time I put in 1,000 push-ups in a month, and it was non-existent. Wow. And then I changed it to 10, and then 12, and then 25, and then 50. And now I do 50 push-ups for every cup of coffee. And part of that was from a cardiac study that showed if you could do 40 push-ups in a row, that you were less likely to have a heart attack. Because I'm a cardiac arrest survivor. I had a little massive heart attack 10 years ago, nearly died. Or maybe I did die, and this is the next universe.
You know, I'm starting to learn about that. That's a whole nother topic.
Cardiac stuff? Oh, for sure.
No, I'm talking about the other lives and other dimensions and stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Right. Why not? Literally, why not?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
one of the things I have the platform I'm on with the anime voice acting and the anime fandom. I get to go to these conventions and I get to do panels on whatever I want. One of the panels I give is called Game Church, and it's a joke, but it's kind of serious. I joked that I was going to start a religion so I didn't have to pay taxes on my house. And my wife, she was like, well, it better be what you believe then. And I was like, Mrr. So I had to figure out what I believed. And I'm raised Catholic. I'm Catholic. I'm pretty generic Catholic. I was raised pretty Orthodox Catholic. But I find no conflict in the Game Church philosophy with the Catholic religion anyway. Catholic religion is the master at the Game Church philosophy, if I'm being perfectly honest. But the idea of how would you analyze life if it were a video game? And one of the things we say in class all the time is that if your life was a video game and you were stuck, the things you have in a video game that allow you to enjoy it are you always know you're never going to be stuck forever. You know for a fact that this level, you'll figure it out. Even if you have to go to a YouTube walkthrough and have somebody tell you how to get to the next level. Like, what do I do to go to the next level? And there's plenty of that life-wise online and on YouTube, people who will tell you, this is what I did and this is how I got to do the next thing that I wanted to do. And in a video game, you don't question it. If you're doing the same thing over and over again and not passing the level, you know instinctively, I have to change what I'm doing. I have to do different things to make sure I get to this next level. And you're also certain there's a next level to get to. For so many people in life, they think that this is it. They're stuck. There's nothing else to go to. And that services somebody else. When you're a non-player character, you're probably digging gold for somebody else and not being able to keep much of it for yourself. When you feel yourself trapped in a tiny little circle and feel like there's no way to get out, and you're choosing not to take different actions, then you're choosing to be in that place. And it does take somebody saying, hey, you can make different choices. And make the world a different place. I sometimes, it was a joke when I was a kid. I used to say, try to think up of word combinations that people had never said in order, asparagus, avocado, kitten flakes or whatever, and you try to think, does that expand the randomness of the universe, or does it, open you up in a way, and doing that on a cosmic scale with your entire life and seeing life in terms of longer cycles and not just the shorter, because they keep convincing us into shorter and shorter cycles. And the more I look at my life in terms of what am I doing this next 5 years? What am I doing this next 20 years? Which may be it for me, 20, 30 years is about all I got left. So, I better plan it out, or I'm going to get planned and then feel like I'm drowning.
You better stop with that now. Come on. we live longer than we have in a long time.
That's true. It's true. I just statistically speaking, with a quintuple bypass and sort of broken down machinery I got going, I think I'll kill it another 20, 30 years. I hope to. I'd like to see
Oh
some
yeah,
grandchildren.
I'm telling you.
If
Well,
I make it to 75 or 80, I'm going to consider myself lucky for sure.
I totally agree with that. I mean, and in fact, someone that was really, really, really extremely close to my family this year, he passed away, and I want to say, and I don't even know if his age is correct, but I want to say he was 95,
Right.
something around in there. And let me tell you, that man was so active. I look up to him so much, and but he never stopped doing things. You know,
Right.
this is kind of random off topic, I guess, in a way. But I was talking to, I think it was my mom the other day, and you know, I was asking her. We were just talking about some of the new things that were in the news, and the CIA paperwork that resurfaced, and all kinds of things. And I was asking her. I said, you know, I was asking. We were talking about like the idea of success and what success means, and everybody usually equates that with money.
Right.
But you know, I asked her. I said, how many people, just whether you know them personally or people, celebrities, whatever, do you know that actually retire? Like literally just stop working and retire and just don't do anything. She was like, none of them. And I was like, exactly. But why is that? You know, and I thought about it and I thought, you know, maybe that's because fulfillment is not necessarily in this worldly job per se. It's in the energy and the service that we get to, you know, other people. And then everybody has this grandiose idea that, you know, like you said, I also believe in the same thing, that we are programmed from the time we were in the womb, you know, about
Right.
all of our surroundings and everything that we take in. And when we are brought up in that mindset, like you said, I think you said, isn't it beta waves?
Theta wave.
Yes. You know, until the age of 7 or 8. So the brains are almost completely formed then. And it takes a lot of work to try to rewire some of that thinking, you know, and to kind of get out of that mindset and realize that you don't have to necessarily follow all of these rules that are out there, that they're just really world rules. They don't have to be your rules per se.
Yeah, when we talk, I always equate it to Minecraft. Minecraft has certain ways that you can build, but it's got no rules. There's really no rules to how those worlds create themselves and the things people can do in them. And our world is very much like that. There are no, you know, your family gives you moral guidance, and if they're a good family, they give you lots of your own you know, questions to ponder, and not so much what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do. You know, you equip children with the ability to ask the right questions, and I think asking the right questions is key. Why you know, why am I doing it this way? Why don't I do it another way? What's the best way to do it? What's a beautiful way to do it? What would make me feel good about doing this next task or this next obstacle?
I could not agree more. And I've said on this show before that my older two children, like I told you a minute ago, this is a complete 180, this whole new mindset for me. And it's been a growth process that started probably 2 years ago, but it really ramped up this past year. But I laid in the bed for 3 years, sick, and literally thought that I was going to be sick for the rest of my life. So I had pretty much condemned myself to that's what it was going to be. And I was going to make the best of that, which is an awful mindset to be in. But I was in that mindset for 3 years, you know, and I had 2 older children, 3 actually, and they had to, I didn't teach them that. And I'm kicked myself for it now. And I'm being told not to kick myself for it, just to keep showing them by my new example, you know, that, you know, and also I very much believe in a parent vocalizing and being straight up with their children when they know they're wrong.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, 100%. I was not that parent, you know, and so I've strived really hard to do that, but I keep telling them, I'm really sorry. Piper's my do-over, my youngest. The 8-year-old, I'm like, sorry, she's probably getting the better mom.
That's true. It's true. I mean, like you can't, there's certain things the older kids get that the younger kids don't get. There's a lot of attention, sometimes not always the best attention, but you definitely get looked at a lot more as the older child. As you get further on down the line, you're more content to let them do their own thing and to guide them in doing their own thing. And I think that produces, a more experienced child by the time they get to be an adult. And by experienced, I mean experienced at making their own choices that are good and healthy for themselves.
Yeah.
Rather than obeying choices they think are supposed to be right for fear of judgment or punishment, which that doesn't produce the best choices. The best choices are always produced from an internal place of like, this is what I want from my perspective.
Speaking of that, do you ever listen to David Bear?
It's familiar. I don't know if I have.
He speaks about, he believes there's only two mindsets that you can be in. And I'm going to try not to mess this up because I don't have my notes. But it's quite interesting. It is a primal state of mind, or it is a powerful state of mind. And the primal state of mind is the ego and boredom, anger, all of those types of lower level, vibrations. And then the other opposite obviously would be, happiness and joy and service and all of those things that really make your spirit soar and things like that. But I want to say it was him also that I heard said that when you get into a primal state of mind, so when you're operating from a fight or flight or from that defeated mindset, that like 10 to 20% of your brain actually shuts off, making it harder for you to be able to actually bring yourself back to, I guess, or out of the primal state of mind, or I'm sorry, to make decisions. That's what it was.
Sure. No, I can feel that. I know. Yeah. I know when I am upset, I know when I am in a heightened state that it is the wrong time to make a choice. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you need to be angry to make certain choices. The same thing happens in a video game when you get frustrated and you're like, I don't care. I'm just going to do something different. Mm-hmm. And I think if I call them signal emotions, where it's rage, grief, frustration, anger, all the emotions that are really, really bright. Mm-hmm. I say they're not mistakes. It's not like we were created with mistakes inside of us called anger and sorrow. These are not mistakes, but they're strong signals that this is a part of your story that you're going to have to rewrite. This is a part of your story that you're going to have to figure out. And so you put a giant red flag in it saying, I threw a plate of sausages across the kitchen in anger. Not something I really did, but if you were to do that, rather than bury it and hide it, that happened so that you could go back to that moment and sort of analyze it from different perspectives to see what's the story I was telling myself, and how do I need to rewrite that so that I am not in that state when that occurs again, whether it's, poor family programming or a bad relationship or frustration over whatever it is, whether it be finances or bills or free time, which is most of the things people get, frustrated about. But when you have strong emotions, you got to go back and take a look at them. Why was I so upset? Why was I so full of grief? Why was I so angry or frustrated? And a lot of times, as an old saw, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, a lot of times just your physical capacity to deal with things can be drained. Mm-hmm. And when it's drained, it's up to you to make sure that you're not. For the longest time, I would drain myself dry for others. Mm-hmm. And never, and thinking I was being good to them by doing that. But the older I get, the more I realize I have to keep a lot in reserve for the sake of others, because the only time I slip over into those, sort of signal emotions are when I am exhausted or depleted or I don't have the reserve. So I take a lot more time on the front end for myself to be prepared for the times when I'm going to need those reserves to persevere through actual hard times or actual difficulties.
That was a specific question that I had written down. Is there anything that you could pinpoint that you could say is maybe a go-to for you or has been in the past to help you when you've really found yourself in that primal state of mind?
Yeah.
Like faith.
To say that again?
For me, it would be faith. However, sure. I had it, then rejected it, and then found it again. So I've kind of been down with it.
Yeah, faith. I mean, faith and religion and all that stuff. There's everybody comes at that from very strong perspectives, obviously, mm-hmm. and the stories are fantastical in a way. So there's a lot of room for allegory and interpretation.
Yes.
I tend to be, and I understand the sort of faith journey that people go on, and I'm obviously on one as well. I think everybody, you're required to exist, even if your faith is in mathematics or randomness.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I look at it, and this is once again from sort of a game church perspective, but I look at it from an athletic standpoint, that like, what do I go to make myself feel better? The technique we teach in class is just a simple breath technique, and it has its origins. It's been here forever. I learned it in martial arts. I learned it in yoga. I learned it in acting. I am a big fan of Wim Hof, who's the Iceman. He does cold plunges. He teaches people how to freeze themselves, which is incredibly good for you. My next big project, I want to convert the extra bathroom to have a sauna and a cold plunge. I tend to do saunas in the summertime in Texas because I just go sit in my car and sweat myself out. And then in the wintertime, I jump in the pool when it's like 20 degrees out.
I mean, no joke, it's free.
Yeah, no, it's totally free, and it's so good for you. But the breath technique we teach is incredibly simple. It's a lot of times people think breathing techniques are mystical or spiritual, and I say no, they're like sit-ups. Mm-hmm. If you breathe in and out as strongly as you can, utilizing your diaphragm, so you're breathing and pushing your belly out with the in-breath, the inhalation, and bringing your belly in with the exhalation. You're doing this diaphragmatic breathing, which, number one, is how your lymphatic system is promulgated throughout your body. Your diaphragmatic movement is what keeps the glands and all the juices flowing between them, and your white blood cells doing their job. Hyperventilation, because you breathe 30 to 40 times in and out as deeply as you can, and you will get dizzy. This is something we did as kids, but the effect it has on your blood is that it alkalizes your blood, and an alkaline environment is a very, very healthy environment in your body. But the other thing it does, it removes your ability to say words inside your head, because you've over oxygenated. It's difficult. You'll feel a muscular strain in your diaphragm and in your abdomen the way you do when you're doing push-ups or sit-ups. I say that's what you're looking for. It's not about the breath. But you can do this 30 to 40 breaths in a minute or so, and you feel incredible. And it resets you in the moment, and then sort of gives you a clear path for a little bit longer time after that. But the repetition of it on a daily basis, doing it 2 or 3 times a day, it reminds you of how good your perspective can be, and it settles you back in that perspective very quickly.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that people give enough, I don't know what the word is, importance to routine.
Sure.
I really, truly don't. I mean, I've had to learn throughout my journey, because I went for very much an atypical type personality, and I'm trying to tap more into my creative and just kind of live for more of that headspace. Because I've always had creative tendencies and things, but I would always acclimate more to the straight-laced, follow all the rules kind of. But the breathing thing you were just talking about, that's what I was going to say. I've actually experienced panic attacks in the past, and I've told a few people, I've only done minimal research about it, but I've told a few people that I have found myself having an anxiety attack from being cold, getting too cold too fast.
Yep. Sure.
And it took me a long time to figure out what was triggering that. And I was just reading before we started interviewing a post that Tom Bilyeu had put up, and it was something about taking cold showers. Yep. And I knew that that's something that he did, but I had not realized the science behind it. And that's exactly kind of what you were talking about. It's a way to help reset your mind.
Yep.
That is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. I practice it with my young daughter. She's 9. We will do a walk around the block. We'll go out for a walk. We'll walk to the golf course or whatever. But we will get a bowl of ice water, and your hands have a lot of nerve endings in them, and we'll have a contest to see who could hold our hands in the ice water longer. Mm-hmm. She typically beats me. I could probably beat her if I really, really pushed, but I don't want to push her beyond her level. So I always like to have her be the one that wins so she can choose to. I don't want to challenge someone that young, although there's no damage. But what it does, it hurts. And your body in response to pain tries to make you feel good. But the other thing it does is I have a friend who's pretty highfalutin lawyer, and he's a cold plunge dude too, but he says that it burns out his sort of adrenal response, so that he's much calmer in the face of things that would normally trigger an adrenal response. And you panic in the cold. You feel the panic coming on. I always recommend to people, if you're going to do a cold shower, which is where people usually start, I say the best way to start is if you take a shower every day, skip your shower for 2 days. And on the second day, work out in the yard and make sure you're just dirty and sweaty. And then just start by standing in the shower and turning it on to your regular temperature, but allow it to warm up on your body. So there's no panic because you know the heat is coming, so you lessen the panic. But the other thing that happens is your desire to be clean overrides your desire to be warm. So that you're like, oh, thank God I'm finally clean. Thank God I'm getting this dirt off me. And you don't worry about the cold as much. And you can build, you can build from there. And the other time, like when it's winter time, I love it because I can take super cold showers for a longer period of time. And so I can stretch myself a little further in that way. And I tell people, if you take a cold shower in winter, when you step out of the shower, the world is warm. You're happy to be in the world. Whereas if you take a warm shower in winter, you step out and the world is cold. And you have to wrap yourself in your towel, and suddenly you're at a disadvantage. So you flip it and you take because there is no getting out of the pain in life. That is the primary teacher. Pain is the primary teacher in life. And so there's no getting out of it. And it's just like we say in our relationship, my wife and I, we can either put in the hard work on the front end, or we will be required to put in the hard work on the back end in the form of a difficulty or a disagreement or whatever. But if we're putting in the hard work on the front end, making sure we're connected and communicating and have time for each other and do the little things that matter. So, if we're doing all that work on the front end, yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes energy. Yes, it takes discipline. It takes all those things, but it's much less painful. A cold shower is much less painful than, diabetes. I don't want to say you can prevent diabetes with a cold shower, but you can develop a discipline that allows you to function in a way that can either remove or prevent, diabetes from being a reality in your life.
Well, this right here is going to be my next personal challenge. It really is.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
I mean, because like I said, I've experienced panic, only a couple of panic attacks. Anxiety, I had a lot of anxiety, which I've learned over time is learned behavior, and I'm so grateful to learn that anxiety is learned behavior. A lot of people get pissed off when I tell them that, like downright mad. But the truth of the science is that a lot of it is learned behavior, either by other people or just by you in situations yourself, the way that your mind decided to, read the situation. But with that being said, we were talking earlier about that good nervous energy. And,
Sure.
Sometimes when it gets right there to the peak and that if you don't adjust in the right way, it's going to go ahead and go on over
Sure.
Yeah. Like I feel like maybe this right here might be a key to maybe helping me accomplish that, because I do still feel like there have been times where I have walked, maybe in the last 6 months, I walked into a room into the AC and it is literally in fact, it did. I started hyperventilating. My 8-year-old thought she had to call her dad, and I'm just, all I could get out was just, hang on a minute. I was like, hang on. But that actually just happened a few weeks ago, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. The cold, it does, it triggers an anxiety response. Yeah. It is terrifying, but what you have when you do cold work is you are actively choosing to do it rather than having it happen to you. And so you can extend the boundaries to where that anxiety cues itself. You extend the sort of map where you're okay with things. And you learn, the great thing about cold is it teaches you how to breathe, because you can't do anything except breathe. That's all you can. Like, you know, that when you're just in that cold, all you can do is just keep breathing and keep going inward. Mm-hmm. And the sort of deeper you go, the broader your boundaries become, and the more in control of your systems you are.
That's good. Hey, so I hope you guys enjoyed the first half of my interview with Chuck Huber. It was funny and enlightening, and I just couldn't get enough of all of his advice and all of his insight. And so next week, we're going to dive right back in for the other half. And I mean, this interview really, it made an impact on everybody around here at Coming in Hot. So I really hope that it impacts you as well. And I cannot wait for next week. I mean, it's Chuck Huber. Chuck freaking Huber. Yes. See you next week.